Hello, I'm Jill Hyams and I'm an archivist at Surrey History Centre, specialising in Jewish and refugee history. On the 27th of January, Holocaust Memorial Day commemorates the millions of people killed in the Holocaust through Nazi persecution and in subsequent genocides. We also remember those who were able to escape oppression and make a new life for themselves in this country. Some of the refugees who came to Britain found shelter in the homes, schools and hostels that opened in Surrey specifically to accommodate people escaping Nazi oppression. These refugees were helped by remarkable people, often themselves exiles, who had dedicated their lives to helping those who had suffered similar fates. The theme for Holocaust Memorial Day 2021 is Be the Light in the Darkness. But how many people know that a small Surrey village provided a place of refuge and a beacon of hope for a small group of children who had been brought to safety on the Kindertransport before the outbreak of the Second World War? While researching the history of Rowledge village near Farnham, resident Mark Westcott visited Surrey History Centre and made an interesting discovery about his childhood home, Rowledge House. Among the parish records, a handwritten journal about the history of the village contained a brief reference to Rowledge House being used by a Jewish association for evacuated and refugee children during the war. The leather-bound journal was started in 1871 by Florence Parker and continued by others over the years. It is inscribed, "Records of Rowledge. This book was compiled by the eldest daughter of the first vicar. She trusts that the clergy of the future will keep it up to date so that there may always be authoritative records of the history of Rowledge." Signed, Florence E. Parker. The page on Rowledge House reveals that the then owner, Mrs. Schofield, sold it in 1942 to a Farnham syndicate. It states that the syndicate, and I quote, immediately let it to the Jewish Hostels Association, and 32 evacuated Jew children came to live there. Intrigued by this discovery, Mr. Westcott contacted the Association of Jewish Refugees and Surrey Heritage to try to find out more about the hostel. A letter was published in the AJR Journal, and he was subsequently put in contact with Edie McGann, formerly Markovich, who had run Rowledge House Hostel with her husband Shalom during the war. Edie and Shalom belonged to the British arm of the B'nai Akiva Zionist movement, of which Shalom was a founder member, and they had married during the London Blitz of 1941. A recent interview with the amazing Edie on YouTube reveals how she and her husband were asked to manage the hostel at Rowledge, where they provided an Orthodox Jewish education both for refugee children from the European mainland and for evacuee children from England. The Jewish Chronicle reported that Rowledge House Hostel was officially opened at the beginning of 1943 and commented, "The children have proved very adaptable to the system of communal living, and they have made remarkable progress in their Hebrew and religious training." The report continued, "At the official consecration, the service was conducted entirely by the children, who afterwards gave songs, poems and recitations in English and Hebrew." Mr. Westcott also made contact with Hannah Naim, who along with her twin brother Yochi had arrived in England on the Kindertransport at the tender age of 4. In interviews with broadcast journalist Julia Moore, Hannah recalls her traumatic departure from Germany when her mother took her 2 young children to the station and begged people to take them on the train. Hannah's older brothers had already left Germany for England. Once in England, Hannah and her brother stayed in what she describes as unsatisfactory accommodation for a few years until her oldest brother arranged for them to move to Rowledge House Hostel in 1944. Here, Hannah said she felt safe and happy and describes with kindness the optimistic and energetic Edie and Shalom, then in their 20s and newly married, who ran the hostel. After the war, through her eldest brother's efforts, Hannah's mother, who had remarkably survived Auschwitz and the death marches, was brought to Britain and was reunited with her children. Sadly, Hannah's father did not survive the war. After Kristallnacht in November 1938, he went into hiding and then made his way to Paris, where his sister lived, hoping for his wife to join him, but she was deported to Poland. In 1942, he was arrested and sent to the Droncy internment camp before meeting his death in Auschwitz. Deeply moved by the stories he heard, Mr. Westcott decided to erect a blue plaque on Rowledge House to commemorate the hostel, its founders, and the refugee and Kindertransport children it had sheltered. On a cold October day in 2012, the plaque was unveiled on the outer wall of Rowledge House by Hannah Naim and Mark Westcott. 3 of us from Surrey History Centre were privileged to be present at the unveiling, which was also attended by representatives from B'nai Akiva, the Kindertransport Association, the Association of Jewish Refugees, and local churches. It was an emotional occasion, commemorating the role of a small Surrey village in providing a place of refuge and a beacon of hope for a small group of Jewish children who had escaped Nazi oppression. And for Mr. Westcott and his family, the Rowledge House Hostel plaque also represents the continuing importance of tolerance, difference, understanding and vigilance. There is a lovely postscript to this story. Wolf Bard was another of the Kindertransport children who stayed at Rowledge House Hostel in the care of Edie and Shalom Markovich, and he kindly presented this charming photograph of the children at Rowledge. After the war in 1949, Edie and Shalom settled in northern Israel near Tiberias, where they founded a kibbutz along with a group of other immigrants from different countries. The couple had changed their name to Magan after the birth of their children. After a few years as principal of a boarding school, Shalom returned to the kibbutz, where he worked as a gardener until retiring at the age of 86. He died in 2011, aged 93, shortly after his and Edie's 70th wedding anniversary. When Mr. Bard and his wife came to England, they took the time to visit Rowledge House and to meet Mark Westcott. During their meeting, Mr. Westcott mentioned that he had a spare blue plaque and asked if Mr. Bard might arrange to take it back to Israel and to present it to Edie, now in her 90s. This Mr. Bard did, and in his own words, and as the photograph shows, to say that she was happy to receive it is an understatement. Records of Rowledge House Hostel, including film footage of the unveiling of the plaque, are available to view at Surrey History Centre. For more about Rowledge House Hostel and other places of refuge in Surrey, take a look at the Refugee and Holocaust Memorial Day pages on our Exploring Surrey's Past website, www.exploringsurreyspast.org.uk.